All right, Raider Nation. So it appears as though Mike Vrabel has canceled his appointment with Mark Davis. Insider report says that he had a phone conversation with him and let him know that he would be most likely taking the job with the Patriots. Right now, they are in discussions with him, and that is his dream job, though he was considering coming to the Las Vegas Raiders. And that appears to be why, at this moment, Antonio Pierce still has his job, because without Mike Vrabel on the table, you are basically left with offensive coordinators like Ben Johnson and Cliff Kingsbury, who are going to have the pick of the litter, and the Raiders may not have a franchise quarterback, which would not be ideal for either one of those guys, especially Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is a leading candidate for the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams. And who knows what Cliff Kingsbury is actually going to do? Will he even opt to jump in the coach's market this year? Will he stick with Washington and help them grow out Jaden Daniels and really help him to further his career in year 2 and 3, and then maybe hop back into the head coaching carousel? So here's a few key points that I want to talk about today, and that is, when you watch Antonio Pierce's presser yesterday, there were a few things that I was impressed with that I have been dogging him for all season long, and that is really a lack of taking credibility or taking responsibility for the poor performance of the team, and he did do that yesterday. So I was pretty satisfied with some of his answers, which I hadn't been so far. Number one is that he said, we need to coach better. And this is kind of like, in such an emphatic way, this is really the first time that I've heard him take responsibility for the disaster that this season has been. So that's a good sign. The second thing that was really big for me is that when he was asked about the quarterback situation and Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, he very clearly said that this year going forward, number one, he's going to stick with his gut. He didn't do that this year. He did it in his interim, and it worked out well for him. He didn't do it this year. I think he was listening to too many talking heads, whether that be Tom Telesco, Marvin Lewis, all the myriad of other ex-coaches that he brought in to advise him. And I think that this year, if he is still the head coach moving into the 2025 NFL season, he said very clearly, I'm going to listen to my gut more, something I didn't do this year, something I did in the interim head coach situation. And then it was a follow-up question was, is this in regards to the quarterback situation with Gardner Minshew? Would you have done something different looking back with the quarterback situation? He said, yes, absolutely. He didn't hesitate. He did not hesitate. So when you read between the lines, and listen, Antonio Pierce is pretty good at making things poignant enough to where you understand what he's saying, but vague enough to where he can't get into trouble, right? He did this last year with the refs killing our game with the offsides, Jack Jones on the kick, which then, gave them another kick and they were able to win the game. And he very clearly said, I'm not going to answer that one. That costs too much money, right? And, just don't make it close enough to where the refs decide the game. So he was letting us know, yes, the refs screwed up there, but he's not going to straight up just, get himself a major fine for criticizing the refs, which goes against the NFL rules. Well, he's doing the same thing here. And I think that he is, in a couple of ways, he has called out Tom Telesco. In his last presser, or a couple of pressers ago, where he was asked about, the draft situation, he's like, go ask Tom Telesco, right? Throws it over there. And then, yesterday, he's talking about, I'm going to listen to my gut more, and I would have done something different looking back on it with the quarterback situation. And another key point that you cannot miss out on yesterday's presser is where he says that I hope this year I have more say in the quarterback situation. Therefore, he basically just let all of the suspicion that we have had for the entire year that he was not the one making the decision at quarterback, it was up above his head. It was either Tom Telesco or Mark Davis. Those two guys were basically forcing him to go with Gardner Minshew because Gardner Minshew was, the $25 million quarterback. And his gut told him to go with Aidan O'Connell. And if he had gone with Aidan O'Connell, we might be in a better situation. And I do understand some people are saying, oh, well, if you would have went with Aidan O'Connell, even with Luke Getsy, yeah, you still only win 4 games. Maybe, maybe not. I think that Aidan O'Connell actually under Luke Getsy did better than Gardner Minshew did under Luke Getsy. So I think we had a real possibility of probably winning 3 or 4 more games. Maybe we win 8 games this season if Aidan O'Connell is the starter the entire season, and obviously he didn't have the broken thumb situation, which put him out of commission. If that had never happened, if Aidan had started every single game, I believe that we probably would have won 8 games. Maybe 9. Maybe we're in contention for a wild card run. Because 2 things happened this season. One, you saw the offensive line really improve. JPJ is an absolute stud. Colt Miller got back to health. And DJ Glaze is going to be our right tackle for the future. And we just need a couple of pieces at guard. And that way we can move JPJ back to center and get rid of Andre James. He still stinks. And we can really have a solid offensive line. So because they did improve, that would have helped Aidan O'Connell. Now, yes, Aidan O'Connell threw a interception in the last game of the season against the Chargers. You know what? Interceptions happen. Guess what? Newsflash, Patrick Mahomes throws interceptions. Tom Brady threw interceptions. It does happen. But Gardner Minshew threw 10 interceptions to only 9 touchdowns. Aidan O'Connell has a much better protection of the football and more touchdowns than interceptions every single season he's been in the NFL for 2 seasons now. So, moving on to next year. If Antonio Pierce is the head coach, which I believe at this point, most likely he will be for 1 more year, at least. Because the players did sign a petition. They put a petition together and they sent it to Mark Davis. And they asked him to keep him for 1 more year, explaining that, listen, he is the only thing that held the team together from complete disaster and falling apart. And so they believe in him. They want to play for him again next year. That does mean a lot. With the offensive coordinator situation, I think it is a very good chance that Turner is back next year as the offensive coordinator. Patrick Graham will probably be gone, so we'll need to replace him. There's a Robert Saleh out there, and he is a fantastic defensive coordinator. So I say the Raiders go out and get Robert Saleh, bring him in as the defensive coordinator. If Antonio Pierce is still the head coach, fine. If Aidan O'Connell is still the quarterback on the team, you want to trade away, if you can get anything, for Gardner Minshew. I don't care if it's a 7th round draft pick. Just get rid of him and then draft a quarterback in this draft. If Shedeur Sanders comes to the Raiders, I'm not sold on him. I'm not sure he's better than Aidan O'Connell. I think he probably will be better than Aidan O'Connell. But it remains to be seen because there are some holes in Shedeur Sanders' game. The Raiders aren't going to get Cam Ward, who I believe is the best quarterback in the NFL draft this year. And so it's probably going to be Aidan O'Connell as the starter next year. Even if it's Shedeur, I doubt Shedeur starts at the beginning of the season. If anything, Aidan O'Connell is going to get the first 6 games. And then maybe you work Shedeur in, if you end up with Shedeur. If you don't end up with Shedeur, the Raiders have to go with the best player available, and I believe that will be Tet McMillan. Wide receiver, 6'5", absolute beast X receiver. And that's going to allow you to put Jakobi Meyers back in his natural position as a slot receiver who can also line up on the other outside receiver position. And now you have an X and a Y receiver. And that would really help whatever quarterback we're going to have.